They kept this from me for years." He was 28 when he returned to the house he hadn't been invited back to since his father died. The front door still stuck for a second before giving in. The hallway smelled faintly of old wood and something stale, the kind of quiet that lingers after people stop coming back. His older brothers had been there. He could see it in the stacked boxes by the living room wall, each marked with the same handwriting, their handwriting, the kind that filled the space easily, as if it belonged there. His name wasn't on any of them. He didn't stand in the doorway long. The house didn't respond to waiting. Downstairs, the old dresser was still in the corner of the room. The middle drawer had always caught before opening. He pulled it, then pulled again. It slid out with a soft scrape. Inside, beneath folded fabric that no one wore anymore, lay a yellowed document. The paper was heavier than he expected. The title at the top was formal. The name below it was his father's. What stopped him wasn't just the document. There was a fresh metal clip holding 2 pages together. It was clean, new. It didn't belong to something that had been forgotten for years. He stood there with the drawer open, the room quiet around him. The house held the moment without offering any sound back. He unfolded the first page. His father's signature sat at the bottom. His own name appeared in a section he had never heard mentioned. The terms were simple. They didn't argue with the past. They only described it. Someone had handled this after his father was gone. He closed the drawer slowly and sat on the edge of the bed, the paper resting on his knees. The room felt smaller than he remembered. The walls seemed closer, as if they had leaned in over time. Outside, a car passed. The sound moved through the window and left. Nothing else did. He photographed the pages and placed the document back where he had found it. The metal clip caught the light for a second before the drawer went dark again. At the records office, the clerk recognized the format. There was no drama in the confirmation. The will had been registered. It hadn't been replaced. It hadn't been revoked. Someone had requested a copy months after the funeral. The name on the request was familiar. He stepped outside and sat on the low concrete ledge near the entrance. The sun was too bright for the way his chest felt. He didn't call anyone yet. He let the confirmation settle in his body first, the way cold settles into the hands before pain does. Back at the house, he searched the lower cabinets. Behind a stack of old manuals, he found an envelope with his father's handwriting. The ink had bled slightly into the paper fibers. The note was brief. Keep the will where it can be found. The dresser wasn't where it had been kept before. The clip hadn't been there before either. The phone call to the oldest brother connected and then went quiet. The line didn't drop. It stayed open long enough for the sound of breathing to pass through. Then it ended. He drove to the middle brother's place. The door didn't open. A shadow crossed the narrow window beside it. The television volume lowered. The lock turned. He stood there long enough for the silence to become deliberate. Then he stepped back. When he returned to the house, he found a folder tucked behind inventory receipts from the estate process. One receipt carried a signature. The date was weeks after the funeral. The signature matched the handwriting on the boxes in the living room. Across the street, the neighbor remembered the day one of the brothers came by alone. She remembered because the downstairs window had been open longer than usual. She remembered because the drawer in that room had been left open when she brought over mail that had been misdelivered. She hadn't thought much of it then. She did now. The pieces didn't rush into place. They lined up slowly, the way objects do when someone finally stops moving them around. The moment that changed the risk came when he found an old voicemail on his father's phone, still stored in a box with other things no one had claimed. The message was short. His father's voice sounded tired but clear. "Don't let them leave him out of this." There was no date on the message. There didn't need to be one. He set the phone down on the kitchen counter and stayed where he was. The room felt like it was waiting for something it had already given away. When the family stood in the same room again, he placed the will on the table. The metal clip caught the light. The receipt lay beside it. The note in his father's handwriting rested on top. No one spoke at first. A family member stood beside him and looked at the papers. The recognition came quietly, not as a defense, not as an excuse. Just a pause that had weight in it, the kind that settles in the shoulders. The oldest brother's hand moved toward the table and stopped short. The middle brother didn't look up. No one reached for the documents. There was no argument. There wasn't much to say that hadn't already been decided years earlier. He left the papers where they were. The air outside felt cooler than the rooms he had been standing in. The house behind him stayed still, holding the things that had finally been placed back into view. The door closed without sound. He walked down the steps and didn't turn back. What does it mean to belong to a family that learned to leave you out?